This is Addy Ads, Anakin Skywalker. YouTube's chosen one. Good timing on the comment there from the live chat. Want to welcome everybody who may be listening. Looks like Laura's already checking in, and I will put the entropy chat link in the live chat as well if people want to feel generous, or if they're feeling generous this evening and they want to do a donation or a super chat, you can do that via this entropy link that I'm about to put. Otherwise, you can use that entropy chat for uncensored discussion as well. But I am here with a special guest who I actually met via another YouTuber, and she represents Rainbow Food Rocks. Gail, I'm here with Gail. Miss, how do you pronounce your last name? Because I don't.
Angeles. Or Angeles.
Okay.
Depending on how you want to say it.
Yeah. I usually defer to the Spanish pronunciation, but I wasn't sure if you had a preference.
Well, actually, it's Filipino, so that's why a lot of people say Angeles, even though normally it would be Angeles.
Right.
Interesting thing how they pronounce it differently depending on.
Sure. Yeah. And you're an author. You said you.
I am. I'm the author of this recipe book, and everything in it is meat-free, dairy-free, corn-free, soy-free, egg-free, peanut-free. It's also gluten-free, and there are 128 recipes of like breakfasts, dinners, desserts, lunches, soups, salads, all kinds of things. So that way someone could have a meal for like a whole month. You could spread these all out and just rotate them around and put some in the freezer. And I made this because I had to heal my 3 children and myself. And I was doing this, and I moved to Arizona 2 years ago. And as soon as I moved here and made acquaintances with people, they were like, "You need to write a recipe book. This is amazing." And it happens to be very similar to Anthony Williams' Medical Medium, whom I didn't know of back when I started this journey, but then I learned of him, and he and I are doing very similar things, but I'm taking it a little bit farther in that I actually have this whole base that's guided for families, and I've gone and tested everything and made sure that I can back it up with medical science and such. So for instance, I took out certain food items in a specific order. It was a trial and error to heal my daughter who had autism spectrum disorder. And I say had because she no longer has the symptoms that would get diagnosed as autism spectrum disorder. And so it was, I went and did an IgG food allergy or food sensitivity test, the one where they prick the finger and they put the blood on 5 different circles. And sure enough, the items I had already taken out showed up as being inflammatory, which was then creating the symptoms, which got to the diagnosis. But this whole process led me down this rabbit hole because I was questioning, what's going on with the dairy when I took dairy out and my daughter got 25% better. And then what's going on with the wheat? And then what's going on with the corn? Because I tried to substitute corn products in lieu of wheat, and the corn was worse than the wheat. And that led me down this whole rabbit hole of GMO and everything going on and all these chemicals being used in our food. And then from there, it led me to the vaccines and what's in the vaccines. And from there, when I moved to Arizona, by that point, I started getting associated with people in the medical freedom groups here and a lot of different political groups. And we all had the same opinion about how we should decide what goes in our bodies, and we don't want to be chemicalized. And that had led me to Dr. Paul Cottrell, and that's how you and I met, was because Paul and I became close friends because we were going back and forth, and I was telling him my experiences and what I had done, and he is going through and learning things in school, and he wants to be a surgeon eventually. So we would go back and forth, and I would share information, and he would share information, and I was, okay, I know this, and how I know it, and then from, everything that went on with the whole Wuhan crisis, which turned into being labeled COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2 is the actual virus, COVID-19 is the disease. And I had been messaging Paul a bunch when he first went on Rex Bear Leap Project show. And the funny thing is, I was supposed to go on that show when he was first talking about that virus being bioengineered. And he got my slot. I got postponed. And so I was curious, who took my slot? And so I listened in to Dr. Paul Cottrell. And when he was talking about the virus and what was going on in Wuhan and it being bioengineered, I just kind of like dropped my jaw, because 2 nights before I had heard him talk about that, and it was the first time I had ever heard anyone talk about it, I had dreamt all of this, and I had written it down in a dream journal. And I actually made a video, and I'm going to repost it on my new channel because I have an alternate channel now. I'm segregating the recipes and the essential oils from everything else, to just in case, for censorship reasons and such. So I will repost that either this evening or tomorrow, that prophetic dream that I had released way back like 5 months ago or something. But that's how Paul and I started talking, and I went on his show and I shared my prophetic dream. I read it out on the show. I created a separate video of it, reading from my whole journal entry. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, I dreamt this. I heard you talk about it. And so this is kind of how now you and I are connecting, because you saw me on Paul's channel.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I think you guys sell something together too, right? Am I misremembering?
Sorry, say that again, please.
You guys have a product you sell together, is that correct?
So what it is he sells the Quench Naturel products, and I actually am friends with Alana, the business owner who created Quench Naturel. And so when he was looking for health and beauty kind of product, I was just going around to the different businesses and business owners I know, and I looked and I saw her product, and I was like, hey, I know her from doing my own booths at certain farms out here in Arizona. And so I said to him, hey, check out her products. And the thing is, I make very similar products, and I use my essential oils and all my little goodies to make it. But she already is packaged up and ready to go, and I want to support her business. So Paul sells her products, and then I sell the essential oils. So it's the Rainbow Herbals essential oils, and it has my rainbow logo. This is a rose hydrosol, for instance. And I have different oils like peppermint and tea tree and lavender. There's a whole list that's on my website, which is rainbowfoodrocks.com. And I would like to eventually merge with having my oils also going through Dr. Paul, but for right now, I'm just doing them myself locally. And then if somebody wants me to ship in the United States, I'll ship in the United States.
Okay, cool, excellent. Yeah, because I recall seeing you guys talk, and I think you only did like a short talk to start, and I was wondering about your connection. So I heard it was you guys were selling that, or the product.
Yeah, we like to cross promote. So he'll promote my book, for instance, which is on Amazon and Blurb. And then I'll help promote his products. And he and I are really similar in that we both have this, and I never really thought to call it anti-aging protocol, but I guess it kind of is. So he calls his an anti-aging protocol, and mine is just how to help your body heal itself. And so we do the same things. We take the same supplements. So when I was listening to him talk about what he was doing and what he was proposing people do to help with the virus going around, I was like, oh yeah, I carry these essential oils. I know that these essential oils have certain medicinal values. And then also the same supplements, like he was promoting the D3. I already do the D3. He was promoting the C60. I already do the C60. So all these things that he was promoting, like the licorice, we're going months back when he was promoting the licorice. I was already doing licorice all the time. And then I talked to him about the chaga, and a few other people mentioned the chaga too. And I do the chaga mushroom tea, and I have a dandelion like mock coffee. It's an herbal coffee in my recipe book, and I use the chaga there. So what pretty much is going on is everything that I'm doing in my daily life, and same with Paul, helps us boost our immune system, which helps keep us from getting sick. And that's another way that Paul and we have so many different things that we chat about because we are very, very, very similar.
And we had a question here from Connie. What do you do with essential oils? Are they for external or internal?
All right. Well, if you have a good quality one, that's a good question. Then you would have food grade, and then you can take it internally. So for instance, like if you have a tummy ache, you could do a drop of peppermint oil. If you didn't have dried peppermint leaves or peppermint tea available, or spearmint, you can use spearmint oil as well. Spearmint's even a little bit better than peppermint for that. But you can do them externally and internally if you have good quality. Now, a lot of the things that you're going to find in the markets are going to be mixed with other things. They're diluted. They have some certain chemicals in them. So it's really important to know your source. And that goes with all things, not just essential oils, but with foods and supplements. You really want to make sure you have a good source. So I have on my website all the different brands and specific places I get things from for food and supplements. So that's somewhere that people can go that I vetted out for myself. So for external, I make like a lotion. So for instance, I'll take my really pure, undiluted peppermint oil and lavender and tea tree, and I will mix those together with coconut oil, and I'll make a lotion to put on my body. And lavender actually helps with reducing stretch marks, and I do a lot of yoga and stretching and handstands and such, so I want to make sure I don't get any of those stretch marks, so I use that daily when I get out of the shower. But you can use them in other ways too. It depends. Like if you have a headache, you can use peppermint on your temples. But again, if it's pure, you want to just put like a carrier oil. I make rollers where I take the carrier oil and the pure oil and put those together. And I'm really particular about my carrier oils too. So I usually use coconut oil or jojoba, and then make sure they're from a good source.
Okay. And for those that don't know, because there might be some people that don't know how, essentially oils are used, other than, I know you mentioned peppermint for like a stomach ache or for a headache. What other uses? Is there just cosmetic uses as well, or more functional uses? Is it like a tiger balm type of?
It's all of the above. I mean, you can do so many different things. So for instance, like I have a super energizing detox smoothie where I'll put a drop of peppermint when I can't source organic mint, although now I'm growing it in my backyard, which is like a farm in itself. So like, let's say I want to make lavender ice cream. I have a recipe for that. And let's just pretend, because even though I carry the dried lavender, let's pretend I don't have it to steep a tea to make my recipe, which is a lavender milk base. And then I turn that into an ice cream with frozen bananas. And I'd like to just mention I don't use cane sugar. There is an option for like one recipe, but all of my items, the only kind of like sugar I'm using is coconut sugar, but I really stay away from that and try to use dates and maple syrup and honey. For those that do honey. So getting back to that though, like let's say I didn't have that. So I have my food grade lavender oil. So, I mean, a little drop goes a long way. So you have to be really careful. I've had people that, put in way too much and ruin a recipe. And I did that once a long time ago too. So you just a minuscule amount and you can get that lavender taste and you can have that lavender ice cream. That's kind of a unique thing that's not really popular here, but in the Pacific Northwest, lavender ice cream is pretty popular. And they have like a lot of lavender up there. Tea tree oil can help with things like if someone has a wart or some kind of fungus or something else going on with the skin. Eucalyptus. I carry eucalyptus that can be diffused and can help with breathing, and especially if you have like a deep cough or congestion. And what was your question, Addy?
Oh, I was just going to say, I know tea tree oil is used by people for acne as well, I believe.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's correct. Good job.
Yeah. So,
all kinds of different things. I even have a ginger oil because normally I'll juice a lemon and chew on fresh ginger every morning. And I dilute it with water, of course. And so I have the ginger oil because if I'm like in a pinch and I'm like, oh, maybe I'm going to get like a sore throat, I'll just put a drop of my ginger oil in my throat too. So, that's just another example.
That'll help you with sore throats, the ginger.
Mm-hmm. And you can use it in cooking too. I mean, if your recipe calls for ginger and you don't have ginger, just remember you want like a minuscule drop and you want to kind of taste test it because a little bit goes a long way. And I made the mistake, I was making pasta vazul, which translates to like a bean soup, pasta fagioli, some people say, but in Sicilian it's pasta fagioli. And I was like, oh, let me try my oregano oil and put it in. I put just one drop and it ruined the whole recipe. So it's like, when I say a minuscule, I mean like not even a full drop. You got to really be careful. Unless it's something like my lemon lime balls. I make these lemon lime balls, which are great for the upcoming holidays. And, oh, I see that question there. I'll just say quickly though, like I put lemon and lime oils in there, and for that one I use quite a bit because I really want that lemon and lime to come out. Okay, so to answer Connie's question, where do you get your ingredients, Gail? Many different sources. A lot of them can be found on Amazon.com nowadays. Some of them I get directly from the person's supplying it. It just depends. Some of them I actually have to go on Amazon Canada. There's just one in particular. It's a baking powder that's aluminum-free and corn-free and organic, which is kind of a tall order when you're looking for a really clean baking powder and you don't want to make your own. So that one I get from Canada. But all of those things are on my website. So if you're curious, like, okay, where is she sourcing this and what is she using? Anything that I used for this recipe book, when I was making these recipes, it's on www.rainbowfoodrocks.com. And see, Bob K, why is buying food so complicated today? Going to the supermarket? Yeah, I know. Yeah, and read all the health. So yeah, exactly. Keep it simple. Well, there's just a lot of confusion out there. So many people want to jump on that health and wellness train, that bandwagon, and they're going to label things one way, but it's really important to turn it around and look at the ingredients. That's the key. The ingredients, where's this coming from? Like what country or what area? And has it been tested to make sure it doesn't have certain things? Is it cross-contaminated? Is it an area? It gets a little beyond that. It would be a long discussion to just go into every particular item that I have in my cabinet. But learn to read the ingredients first and foremost. Let's see if there's anything else in that question that I might want to. Yeah, well, I would also say to start growing your own food, even if it's sprouts. I took down my videos from the Rainbow channel, and I'm moving them over to the Rainbow Healing and Wellness YouTube channel. And I'm growing sprouts on the tops of my cabinets. And that's something that anyone can do. Even if you're in an apartment, you can start sprouting. And then I also, when we went into shelter in place, I started the Rainbow Farm, so to speak. It hasn't been trademarked or anything, but I started a phase 1, which Dr. Paul Cottrell did a video on my gardens and how I built it up. I did a phase 1 all the way to phase 6, where I had 3 different phases of certain things I was growing, a 4th phase, and then trees, like fruit trees going around, and potato box was phase 6, and I hope to eventually get a mulberry tree. But I just decided to make this whole shelter in place thing that we went through into a time to grow my own food, because if I can't get in the grocery store because they want me to wear a mask, and I don't wear a mask for 2 different reasons, medical and just my own spiritual belief system, then I don't want to not be able to go in somewhere because of that. And then I don't know if Addy stepped off or not. Let me think about maybe I want to expand on that.
I'm back. I had to adjust something there, but give me a sec.
Sure.
Okay, we are, I'm sorry, give me a second, people. Okay, just testing a new phone that I got, and it's not working out as well as I would like it to, but Gail Angeles is with us. She was just answering questions from the comment section about buying food. So it sounds like you do most of your purchasing in mass or in bulk via Amazon, various retailers, or wherever you can find.
Well, yes, it's a launch. I mean, I'm harvesting from my backyard, and then I'm sprouting, and then I go to a place called Natural Grocers here in Arizona. It's the only food store that I'm actually going to right now, because they make sure everything is organic, it's not sprayed, they do rigorous testing, and they are being very kind to people like me instead of being very rude, and they are letting me in instead of harassing me. It's the only place that I can really feel comfortable shopping.
And what store is that?
Amazon is another big one, but I'm really trying to move away and buy local right now. So like going to local farms and things like that. What were you going to say?
Oh, what store is that you shop at and in person? That's the only one?
So it's called Natural Grocers because it's easier to go shopping. It's a more friendly experience, or it's a nicer experience.
Yeah, sure. You don't get harassed for mass rules.
Yes. Well, what I was kind of touching on when I was answering one of the questions was going into stores and being harassed about a mask. I did a video, which again, I'm moving from my Rainbow Food Rocks channel over to Rainbow Healing and Wellness, and I'm just in the process of slowly uploading them and re-releasing them, about my Sprouts incident. So when the masks became a big issue, and they were saying here in Arizona that it was guidance, mind you, it wasn't a law, but they were going and saying that we had to wear masks. I ran over to Sprouts getting as many wild blueberries and frozen goods as I could, because I had a feeling that would be my last time ever going to Sprouts. And my intuition was correct. I am quite intuitive, and that's something you'll discover. And I have quite prophetic dreams. And so I knew that this was going to be an issue. I kind of was just hoping I could go into this one store that was currently supposedly not harassing people over masks. And I went to go in, and it was really challenging because there was a young boy or young man, I should say, at the door, and he was kind of acting like a guard there. And I told him about my medical exemption, and he made me divulge why I had a medical exemption. I went and told him my oldest daughter had a medical exemption. He could care less about that. He went and got the manager. I told the manager, I have paperwork supporting the medical exemption for my daughter here. He's like, I don't care about that. Your kids can come in, but you can't come in. And then I challenged him, and this was before like the major Peggy Hall kind of stuff. And I challenged him. I said, can you show me the law code that says that I cannot enter this store? And this was before Sprouts really hammered down, and they might have hammered down because I wrote in and I also filed something with the Attorney General for Civil Rights here in Arizona. So then he got to the point where he was going to let me in, but then he was still blocking the door, and he was telling me, well, if you go in, then it's not going to fare well for you. So I immediately, after shopping, I made a video about it and posted on Facebook. And like I said, I'll re-upload it to my new channel since I'm separating things. But I was shaking, and I don't shake very easily. I'm a pretty tough lady, Taekwondo trained and armed and everything. But I was shaking because I had been hearing reports from my groups of people being harassed and getting like nuts thrown at them and silly stuff. And I was alone with my 3 kids. And so I went through and shopped, and I was fine. I told my kids, stay right next to me. But that was the last time I went to Sprouts. That was months ago. And from there, I started educating people about what they could do, how they could file a complaint with the Civil Rights Division at the Attorney General of Arizona's office. And then if they were harassed, they could then file a complaint with the DOJ. And then, where I went for the Arizona disability law, and they do some free consultations, and how I got that and got more information and more clarity. And so I started educating people, and there was another lady where her name is Lana, and she's part of the Great 48, the Great State Alliance here in Arizona. She was escorted by a police officer back to her car. She didn't actually get to complete her food shopping. And that was just like, I want to say it was like a week or 2 after my incident. And we started really all banding together and going, okay, we need to figure out where can we go shopping. And that's where the whole Natural Grocers came out, which I had already been shopping at, but Sprouts is actually closer to me. So I like it out of convenience, but I support what Natural Grocers is doing a lot more. And then we started networking. Okay, which farms can we get the CSA from, and who's growing what, and what can we trade amongst each other, and just kind of creating a system. And a lot of our groups are actually getting taken down on Facebook. So, for instance, the Great State Alliance, the Great 48, they had, I want to say it was like 37,000 members. And then just a few days ago, their group was taken down, so they created a new one. The Patriot Party was up on Facebook. That was taken down. I don't know if it's back up. I haven't checked, but a few days ago that was taken down. So we're in a very interesting time, and because I have 3 kids and I've been on this healing journey and I have a lot of different common things with Dr. Paul, I've been like the boots in the ground in Arizona, not just me, but many people here. And a lot of that really stemmed from the medical freedom group here in Arizona and the vaccines and educating people about what's in the vaccines. And a lot of people like to say, oh, she's anti-vax. And it's really that I'm pro-educating what's in the vaccine. I want each person to make his or her own choice and not get forced to have a vaccine. So did you want to ask a question? I wasn't sure.
Yeah, if you want to go, just go for it. But I was just going to point out the comment here from Connie. She likes your website, rainbowfoodrocks.com, and the description box below contains those links. I will also add her Amazon page as well, because I actually didn't know she had an Amazon page. So I'll add that after our chat. She wrote a book, Miss Angeles did. And Gail is in the Southwest, as we said, in Arizona. Are you rural or in one of the big cities?
I am about an hour away from the deep, meaning like the capital of Phoenix. So when I go in because I was at I was at 2 different rallies. I was at the Red Rally where Peggy Hall spoke, and I was also at the rally about making sure that the votes count. And Dr. Paul posted that video, as did I. And so I've been having to travel pretty far for those kinds of events. So usually I'm more in the background, but when push comes to shove, you'll see me show up.
Was that this week, the vote one?
Yeah, that was I want to say it was on Friday. I could be wrong. I think it was on Friday. And I posted it on my Rainbow Healing and Wellness channel, and Dr. Paul uploaded it on his channel. So I did 3 really short videos just kind of showing what it looked like and who was there and whom I was searching for. And
who were you searching for?
I was searching for the Patriot Party. They had a petition going, and I wanted to sign in person. I had signed a petition on Facebook, but I wanted to sign in person also and just kind of say hi. And I had done a conservative leadership class with some of the people involved in that party. And I kind of like to show up in the physical every once in a while because I'm, again, like in the background because I live so far away from everyone else. Which I like where I'm living. Live closer to the mountain.
I suppose it gets a little cooler near the mountain, or do you guys even have winters down there?
Well, it's interesting. The temperature just dropped about a week ago. It was still in the 80s and 90s, minus like a few days of a cold spell. And then it dropped just a few days ago, and it looks like it's a permanent drop to where it's like 39 at night and probably a high around 65, maybe top 70 during the day. And so going from 120 degrees to like 70 degrees is already cold enough, but then to go down to 39, it's like, cold.
Yeah, that's quite a temperature swing there that you guys experience.
My plants too, my poor plants. I mean, they're in shock. I got to go out there and harvest. But today's pretty busy because I'm doing a lot of different videos. I'm promoting some people that are local, and they're promoting me as well because we're all trying to band together as much as possible. Small businesses are really, really hurting out here, as you know.
Oh yeah.
And I'm also doing an 11/11 meditation. I did one this morning where I hopped on Masajati's class. He's really awesome. You can check him out. And then I'm going to be with Greg Allison doing one. And I'm not sure if I'm going to do one also by myself, but I'll do one with him and just kind of raise the vibrations and increase frequencies and hopefully increase awareness and, try to make things for the positive on an energetic level.
Yeah, definitely. So you garden. What plants do you harvest or grow in your garden?
Well, Arizona is an interesting thing. So first of all, I wasn't a green thumb, and I still don't really think I'm a green thumb, but apparently I have quite the jungle in the backyard now, so I must be able to grow. But Arizona's different. So I made the mistake. I started planting snap peas in April, and only to find out that they would get burnt by August, and I wouldn't produce anything, or at least not much. And I realized now, like, just recently, a month ago, I planted the snap peas, and now they're growing wonderfully. So for Arizona, you have to plant them later on, like October. But normally with snap peas, for instance, people would plant them around like April or sometime in the spring. So I had to adjust. Like okra is growing really well here, and I use it to make some like Indian dishes, and I use it in my sinigang. It's a Filipino soup in my recipe book. My book has a lot of different cultural meals that I've redone to be compliant. And I tried the melons. The melons were so-so. I mean, melons do grow well here, but I just didn't produce really great melons. I had produced a zucchini that was like this big. It was so big. What else? Celery is growing really well. And herbs like dill, parsley, cilantro. And cilantro just kind of like grows on its own now in many different places that I didn't plant. Green onions, carrots, different lettuces. I actually had to put coverings over everything, and it was a really good thing I thought of it right before the heat wave in May, because the sun will just burn everything up. So with these coverings, I did like 90% shade on phase 1, 2, and 3. That kept things going and protected my little plant babies.
I had a question about seeds here. This man, oh, here we go. Bob K. He bought tomato seedlings of a popular brand, but ended up with, I guess, not what he was expecting, not the brand he bought. Do you have, I guess, a framework for selecting seeds for planting?
A lot of people like the heirloom seeds. A lot of people like True Leaf Market, but then when the whole virus situation came about, True Leaf Market, I mean, things were getting bought out like crazy. And I personally have gotten some that are organic or heirloom locally, and then I've traded with some friends and acquaintances in my neighborhood, and I've also gone and just regrown things and then harvested seeds. As well as just grown things and harvested seeds. So what I mean by that is like, let's say I collect some pepper seeds and I can regrow those in my garden, or I collect an apple seed, or something to that effect. Or I'll take my celery, and instead of using all of it, I'll just chop it to leave about this much. I'll put it in a bowl of water. I'll let it start to sprout up from the middle, and then I put it in dirt in my garden, and then that grows into a nice big celery. Other things I can do that with are like bok choy. So you can take your bok choy, and instead of using every part, just snip the leaves, use the leaves for your meal, keep the bottom base. Again, do the same thing in the water for like a day or two, and then plant that in the dirt. So you can regrow. I have not done the tomatoes, but I hear that you can do it with tomatoes. Looks like Spoonfill has a question here. Have I distilled my own oils? I have not, but I am associated with a worldwide organization called Ananda, and there's Ananda Farms, Camino Island in Washington, and they do their own distilling of oils. And I know the people that run the farm there, their names are Zach and Haley, and I actually volunteered on their farm before moving here in Arizona. So they are a wonderful source. Besides getting lavender oil for me, they also do lavender and distill it there. And they were the inspiration for my nettle salt, because they were taking their nettle and grinding it up, drying it and grinding it and mixing it with salt. And they were selling that up in Washington. So when I moved in Arizona, I couldn't get it. So I had to create my own nettle salt recipe, which I just do a 1-to-1 ratio of dried nettle ground up, and then Celtic sea salt. All right, I love snap peas. What about the rhubarb? Nah, you know what? I haven't tried growing rhubarb. I totally should try it. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah. Snap peas are awesome, though. The kids love them.
Yeah. And I want to go back to your, I guess, motivation for getting really deep into learning about food and kind of food education and culinary. education, food harvesting as well, was your children and your daughter in particular, right? You said you have two children and one was
Three children.
diagnosed. Three children. Okay, one was
Yeah. So.
diagnosed with autism.
Mhm.
Okay, but now she's not showing symptoms of what one would consider autism.
That's correct. So the full story to that is that it's about 5 years ago exactly, and my daughter was diagnosed with autism from the Seattle Children's Autism Center, and they wanted to do a lot of behavioral therapy. And I also had a naturopathic doctor who was my midwife. I had 2 home births out of my 3 children, and so I went through her to go to this autism center, got the diagnosis. They wanted to prescribe medication and do behavior therapy. I have a background where I worked with mobile infants, toddlers, preschoolers, and then I did kindergarten and grade school, and I was also mentoring for middle school and high school. And I got a lot of free training. I worked for certain organizations where I had training, bilingual training. And so I understood a lot of how to manage children and use certain behavioral techniques, which also allowed me to recognize that something was very wrong with how my oldest daughter, her name is Abigail, was behaving. So I get the diagnosis. They're telling me I can do the meds. I'm like, dead set, nope, not going to do that. I mean, I don't even take Tylenol. So, and my home births were all natural, no meds, all 3 births, no meds. So I right away knew, okay, I need to figure out what is going on. Like how, because I'm such a healthy person. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do drugs. I'm not cuckoo in the Cocoa Puffs, even though you might think I am because I'm into energy and such. But I'm super clean. So for me to have this going on, I just kind of tapped in and was like, there's something else. So I started hearing and reading about taking out gluten and taking out dairy. And I had gone through and made my own little comments back in the day of what's this gluten-free craze and blah, blah, blah. And, later on learning about celiac and stuff, I became more understanding. And so I went to the behavior therapy. I was like, okay, I know what they're doing. I'm already doing this. I don't want to stomp on their feet because insurance was paying for it and everything. And I was like, okay, well, this is an extra set of eyes. So I went to my naturopathic doctor. So she was going to oversee and did oversee me starting to take out certain food items. And she suggested that I take out dairy first. And that was at the same time that she suggested, my daughter was eating a Tillamook cheese. And as she was biting into it, she was starting to have those symptoms that everyone knows, those classic symptoms of autism. And if you don't know it, you can look it up. But usually there's some behavioral things where they act very different than how you would expect most people to act. And I was like, is it possible? I asked my naturopathic doctor, and she's up in Washington. I'm like, is it possible the moment it touches her mouth that she's reacting? Because she and I are watching, my daughter just starts grabbing things and literally throwing them across the room, and we're like, holy moly. And she said to me, yeah, digestion starts in the mouth. And when you think about it, the amylase in the mouth does break things down. So I'm like, that's just wild. And then it got me really thinking, I mean, if it's just a matter of touching the mouth that my daughter was reacting, I mean, that's pretty severe. And so it led me to do more research, and I started reading about people and how they claimed they helped heal their child from autism. And I was trying to figure out, the common thing and what was going on. And so I started taking out the wheat, because the wheat and the rye and the barley have the gluten. And like I mentioned earlier, I started substituting the corn, and I had to take out the corn. But I mean, took out the dairy, 25% better. My doctor, my naturopathic doctor saw it. They wanted to kind of poo-poo the food stuff when I went to trainings and stuff with the autism center, but they could tell that there was a difference. And I was documenting on my end. I was sending it to both people so they could see in real time, what was the behavior? Here's the date of the corrected behavior. So I had this all documented because I was really serious about wanting to heal my daughter. And And so then I took out the wheat and corn. She got 50% better. I took out the, like I mentioned probably earlier, I can't remember if I did or not. I took out the soy, artificial flavors, colors, anything with numbers, dyes. And at that point, my daughter was 75% better. And then I did the food allergy test, like I mentioned earlier, the IgG food sensitivity test, found out about the eggs. And at the same time, my stress level was sky high. I was watching kids. I also was really popular in the neighborhood, so I had a lot of people coming around, and my niece and nephew I used to take care of a lot. My youngest daughter, her name is Adeline, she was having pain from her waist down to the point where she was screaming in pain, scrunching her feet. I was taking pictures of her feet, and then they thought maybe she had spina bifida, but I couldn't believe it. But then I was like, okay, let's go through the motions to see if that's even a possibility. And she didn't have it. They did an MRI, bills are racking up in this, in the meantime with all these different things that I'm trying to do for my two kids. And had a blood test done for my daughter, and they couldn't find anything. She didn't have arthritis or anything. So going through and then applying what I was doing for Abigail, my oldest daughter, the one with the diagnosis of autism, to my youngest daughter. And then I had to model it all. So I had to change my diet and start to figure out new recipes. And then I started reading about the vaccines. And so by the time I had all three kids, I didn't really mention my son, but my son was just that he was breaking out on his hands and getting reoccurring staph infections. And he was getting very itchy and having rashes from wheat. So then I go back to the vaccine thing. So then I started asking my naturopathic doctor, and this is something I always like to educate people about, is the vaccines. Like, why are there 5 of them given at once at certain times? And, why are these given when they're so young? And what are the options? And because she was a naturopathic doctor and not a conventional medical doctor, she informed me that you can actually wait until later, especially if you've had a home birth. You're not going to really get pushed to have to do that vaccine right away because they're not doing it when you're giving birth at home. But even in a medical facility, you can postpone that first one. I want to say it's Hep B, but I can't remember right now. And then you can space them out. If you do want to get them, you can have just one at a time. But a conventional medical doctor usually will not tell you this. So you have to go to a different kind of doctor, naturopathic, maybe a functional medical doctor, I'm not sure. But definitely naturopathic doctors can get them, order them separately. There are also, led me down another rabbit hole of the moral versus regular options, which then I was questioning, well, what's a moral option? And it's an option that doesn't have an aborted baby fetus cell line. And I'm like, well, why do they even have that if they can make a version that doesn't have it for everything except for the MMR, the measles, mumps, rubella? Do you have a question, Addy? I can see you like holding the mic there.
A couple questions.
Yeah.
Can I buy some hand soap and shampoo like she sells on Paul's channel, asks.
Okay. So I think that they think that so I have told Paul about that, but I actually don't sell it on Paul's channel. So Quench Natural is the one that's selling the toothpaste and the deodorant and some other skincare on Paul's channel. However, I don't believe she sells hand soap or shampoo. I have the instructions for how to make your own. If that's something that you want to buy from me, I can make it for you and sell it under my Rainbow Herbals line. So that I would say to write info, I-N-F-O, at rainbowfoodrocks.com, and I can make a special order for you. I haven't gotten to the point where I'm making that in mass, but I do also have I did videos and I'm moving them over to Rainbow Healing and Wellness on how to make your own. So let me know if you want to know how to make your own, or if you specifically just want to buy it from me and I can make that for you.
Okay, and people can find that on your website, you said?
They can find the information about the essential oils on my book on my website, but for how to make your own, I'm in the process of taking everything that I had on Rainbow Food Rocks, meaning it was on Rainbow Food Rocks, and moving it over to Rainbow Healing and Wellness, with the exception of the recipes and the oils. So I'm separating the two because I have a lot of things that are political, and I don't want that to ruin the Rainbow Food Rocks business, so to speak. In other words, if if something were to get taken down, I wouldn't mind if the Rainbow Healing and Wellness got taken down, but I want to keep and preserve the Rainbow Food Rocks name as long as possible. So that's why I'm making that separation.
Understand. Okay. Question from Bob from Australia. Any thoughts on why people in this generation or the past 30 years or so are so allergic to everything? That might maybe only be perception, but I don't know what you think about that question.
I think it's what's being done to the food. I think that the allergies are a reaction that most people would have because of the chemicalization of the food. And I think it's not just the food. I think this is my opinion based on my observations and my own research, that there are things coming out of the sky and that there are things being sprayed on the ground. Like, for instance, people spray to keep away weeds, which could also be medicinal. Plants, and then people are spraying the food, they're genetically modifying the food. So when you go, or not when you in particular, but when a person goes to a grocery store, unless that food, and it even gets tricky when you get to the organics, but unless that food says organic, they can do a whole bunch of different things with that. And now we're talking about packaged foods as well. The ingredients, if it's below a certain amount, they don't have to put certain things on the ingredient list. That's one thing to know. And the other thing is some of those ingredients might not even be exactly what you think. So Ice Age Farmer actually did a show on that. You can look up his work. But when the whole virus thing happened, they were substituting certain food ingredients in packaged goods because they didn't have the supply. And as long as it matches in the, what do you call that, description box on the back of your packaged foods, where it tells you calories and everything, as long as it matches, those kind of things and it doesn't go too off from there.
Yeah, and the nutrition facts.
Say again?
Nutrition facts, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and my personal opinion is the nutritional facts, I don't even bother looking at them. I really look for the ingredients, and does it say organic, and are they simple and pure ingredients, and does that even tell me where they're sourcing it from? So for instance, like 1 Degree Organics, they have the sprouted rice cereal, and that's the only kind of cereal I can get for my kids. So when I don't want to have to make something, I want to give them something really fast, I can use my homemade almond milk, which is a recipe in my book, and I can use that. They also have like oats that are gluten-free, and they're really careful about their products, and they're really paying attention to what they're doing. So I'll look for things like that and then make things from them, or I'll just look for local product that people make things from. And if for someone like lives in Arizona, I just did a recording I'm going to upload on Rainbow Healing and Wellness of a gentleman that's doing like juices and smoothies and desserts that are made with really pure organic ingredients, no cane sugar, no gums, nothing weird like that. So that's what I think's going on in the shortened version.
What, since we're on ingredients, what would you say are some of the best ingredients to avoid that you see as the most common in just anyone's grocery store in the West, let's say?
I'm so happy you're asking that question. Thank you so much. Okay. Citric acid in the United States of America is usually from GMO corn. Ascorbic acid, I stay away from anything that has soy. I think at this point in time, unless you're getting pure organic, soy in its natural form, that I would stay away from anything like soy lecithin, anything with soy. That's my opinion, and based on a lot of experience in helping heal people. I would stay away from cane sugar, even the organic cane sugar. It's really inflammatory based on my experience. And someone put aspartame. Yeah, MSG. I would stay away from MSG and natural flavors. I mean, there's MSG hidden in there. Even if, we know artificial flavors, but natural flavors, really be careful with this natural flavors. Be careful with what products you're buying to drink and everything. Oh, I see someone saying hello.
Yeah. So aspartame, you would say avoid that. Are there any artificial or let's say non-sugar sweeteners that you like? So
I use dates, maple syrup, and because I eat like a vegan, but I don't consider myself vegan per se. I kind of consider myself a super vegan in that I eat like a vegan, but I eat honey. And a lot of diehard vegans do not eat honey, but honey has a lot of medicinal value. So I'll use honey, again, maple syrup, dates. If I'm going to use a sugar, I'll go for the coconut sugar or the coconut nectar. I really try to stay away from that. It's really for like certain baked goods to really get that. Because I try to, and I think I'm quite successful in doing this, I try to make food just like everyone else would have. So maybe it's an Italian pasta dish or a Chinese dish or an Indian dish or a Filipino dish. I want to make it taste and look like just what you would order anywhere else, but without anything that would harm your body, and instead put certain things like dulse or cilantro that can pull out heavy metals into the recipe. So I'm really unique in that way. Hopefully that answers your question. You can also use some fruits like persimmons. You could use apples. I use applesauce to make my lava cakes. That's going to be in a future recipe book.
Okay, excellent. And as you mentioned, citric acid, ascorbic acid to avoid. That's very common ingredients. And then we talked about sweeteners that you like as well.
And I would avoid corn. I mean, everything's tracing back to the corn, and to really be aware of all the hidden versions of corn. So getting corn in Google, and I mean, I can't cite all of them off the top of my head because there are a lot of ways that they hide corn.
What are some that you can remember? Is there a few you can share that? Because I'll probably link one of those charts too. But yeah, I know corn is really big. Really
I'm going to
big.
say like dextrose, a lot of those ones that end in ose, but like I mentioned already, the citric acid, the ascorbic acid. I feel like when I go to the grocery store now some people are changing, but a lot of the products you're going to find one of those. And same with supplements. Like really mindful of the source of your supplements, what else is in it to make sure it's free of certain things, and to check, because a lot of the supplements I'm seeing have citric acid or ascorbic acid in there. And a lot of people get on my case. They're like, well, you need vitamin C. And it's like, yes, you need vitamin C, but you want to make sure that you're getting it from a good source. So if you are going to get citric acid or ascorbic acid, make sure that the citric acid is from citrus and the ascorbic acid is not from GMO corn.
Yeah, and as far as soy too, I've read that it's very bad, especially for males. But you would say that it's bad for everybody.
I would, yeah. A lot of people say for the males because of the estrogen aspect.
Yeah.
I would say just in general, I don't trust it, and I really don't trust the soy lecithin that they're starting to put in all these different products. And really getting back to the basics of going as pure as possible and going to be as clean as possible with as little added ingredients as possible is the best way to go, in my opinion. So you talk about masks. I see the kids here getting off the bus and they have masks on, happening in Arizona. Children immune system building masks. Yeah. So we don't wear masks. We're not going to wear masks for my family. And that's just for in my household. And my kids are homeschooled. And I'm encouraging a lot of people to either homeschool or free school or look into something like that. In Arizona, it's a lot easier to do than some other states. I know it's possible in Washington because I was also doing it in Washington. And Arizona is probably the easiest I've seen thus far for it. And
for homeschooling?
For homeschooling, yes. Yeah, it's much easier because there aren't as many restrictions. Like, for instance, in Washington, when your child gets of a certain age, then you have to do certain testing. So your child still has to show for this test. And it still would be based on their system. And one of the things I'm eventually going to work on, but of course I have so many different projects that I'm working on, is changing the education system. Because it's my opinion that this education system we have set up is just kind of like hindering, and this is again my opinion, hindering children from really exploring and learning, and it's just having them regurgitate things that aren't even necessarily fact, but that there are certain corporations that are controlling what's in the textbooks, and then they're forced to memorize this and regurgitate this. And I would like an education system where children are really learning. And on top of that, I would like to see certain things incorporated to increase their vibrations, them growing a garden and kind of making it experiential learning as well, where they're taking what they're growing, they're using it, they're creating, and in a way like incorporating all maybe 12 major subjects, you could say, into their daily activities in a natural way where they're learning and they don't even realize it. They're just going through and they're initiating and, within limits, like there's certain guides around. I have this certain vision that I'm still kind of hammering out, but I've been doing homeschooling since my kids were babies.
Yeah. And can we go into schooling just a little bit
Sure.
as far as I don't know. Well, I guess a good question for someone who wants to do it, because I would guess, and I don't have data, but it's almost like something but you haven't proven yet, is there's going to be this huge influx of people wanting to homeschool now because of everything that's been going on. What do you think you wish you knew at the start that was something that you're like, oh man, that would have saved me a lot of time or effort, or something that you wish you knew before you started this homeschooling endeavor? Because it's been a couple years, I would imagine now. It sounds like.
Yeah, so I started the homeschooling when I started staying home with my daughter Abigail. So she was about 9 months old. I stopped working for a governmental agency in Washington, and I had the education background because I had been working with children while I was in college, which it's interesting because I studied what I studied and what I did work-wise. Everything's coming together now, but at the time it was all very segregated and parceled and seemed very like, why is she doing all these different things? So when I started homeschooling, I was doing it just like I did in the traditional school. I was getting the same kind of materials. I was doing an extra level of having more hands-on. So for instance, like I would take my daughter and maybe her friend, and even at age 2, I was teaching them how to make quesadillas. Because back then we were still eating the cheese, how to make quesadillas in the frying pan. And I was also incorporating my language abilities. So I was, teaching some French here and there, or some Hindi words, or Spanish, or I would get books from Canada because I was living close to Canada, and I would bring them back and I would read in French to the kids and also translate it in English. And then I had like some Hindi books. I would do the same thing. We'd read about dosas and then like make dosas and things like that. So I had this, it was like kind of similar to regular education, but then I was branching out, and this was like the beginning of what I'm envisioning now, where I had my house set up, where I had a playground in the backyard, fully fenced in, and I had a sandbox, and we would go on nature walks. We did walks daily. We'd go to parks. We'd go to museums 3 times a week. And so I didn't know what I was doing, but I was just kind of trying to figure it out. And when someone starts off, the first thing they ask me is, what curriculum do you use? I need a curriculum. And that's the thing that starting off like trying to be by the book and then veering off, and then now being in Arizona and trying to do this experiential learning, I've come to realize that you really don't need a curriculum. What you'll find is that your children already have certain interests, and all you need to do is find the materials. Like, for instance, go to the library and get a bunch of books out, and then I place them, for instance, in my living room, and I make a line of them so my kids can see all the books for the week. And I've done this since they were babies. For each week I had a different theme when they were babies, and now they kind of pick out what they want, and I spread the books all out. Then they read about those topics, they ask questions. If, like, say, for instance, I'll give you an example. My daughter, Abigail, she's really into space and science and engineering and ancient history. So I'll give her like Forbidden Knowledge TV by Billy Carson, for instance, and I'll tell her, okay, watch these episodes pertaining to what you're interested about this. Or I'll reach out to people like Matt LaCroix, for instance, and say like, hey, my daughter is researching this about ancient history. What do you recommend for a book? Or what book should she read about this? And I'll just kind of reach out to people and start asking around, and I'll create from there, and throughout our day, we could do all 12 subjects within just like 2 or 3 hours. We have that much more free time because we're not waiting for like kids to line up and taking attendance, which anyone that's gone through the public school system knows you waste like 10 minutes each class going through attendance alone and getting everyone to settle down. So, you take all that garbage time out, and then you do what you want, what you like, what you're interested in. And here in Arizona, you're free to teach whatever you want, as long as you're making sure that your children can read and write and do math and spell. You're welcome to do anything else you want. So going back to answering your question, like you start off thinking, I have to be so structured. I need a curriculum. I need everything I was indoctrinated with in the public school system. And then you start to realize, like, this could be anything we want. Like, it doesn't have to be so much in a box. You can think out of the box.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And I am thankful because my first high school in particular, I went to 2 high schools and they both had their pros and cons. But my first high school in particular was pretty good. I would say very good, I think, as far as public education goes. But then my second high school experience was it wasn't even a full academic year, but it was so mind-opening just looking at the AP tests and how
yeah, I remember those AP tests. I had to do all those too.
Yeah, like certain, I think especially government schools will push them because they want to get their stats up, right? They want to get their number of tests passed, that number to be as high as possible. Whereas my first high school, you couldn't even keep up with the homework in like APUSH, for example, like U.S. history, such that you could take 4 or 5 tests in a year unless you were like, one of those valedictorian types. But in my second high school, it was like, yeah, sure, take a test. If you fail, you fail. They really encourage the test taking, which, regardless of the reason for it, I think it really encourages people to understand that they can learn new things. So there's pros and cons to those different things. But yeah, just as far as you don't have to be set or in a square, box, rectangular curriculum, however you would like to describe it. I think when you look at something like mathematics, that's as objective as one can get with, a subject that is commonly taught to children. But like history, that can be, it's so many different things. Unfortunately for the U.S. educational system, I think it is often painted instead of told, right? It's not, there's a lot of propaganda that goes on, and you don't realize that until after the fact, and you get these new perspectives. So yeah, you really can go so many different ways with it, and I think individualizing it is the biggest advantage to homeschooling, which is why I'm delaying children as long as possible.
Now, the other thing though with homeschooling is it does take a parent to be around.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. That's like
trying to work from home to make sure that there's an income and everything. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I mean, you would know, but I would imagine it's almost a full-time thing, or it's like a day job, right? Where you're
I wear many different hats. I mean, my daily routine is like getting myself ready. I do yoga and meditation in the morning. I'm currently taking some Addy classes also. So I have some classes that I take twice a day. And then, going on shows like this, communicating with people and being, on the ball with what's going on for everything all over the world, and teaching, and then cooking and cleaning and running the garden, and, all those, bill paying and all those things that go on. And so I'll find myself like trying to multitask, and I had to become, and I am very efficient because I have to be. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, what's that?
It can be done.
Yeah, definitely can be. And I want to thank you for coming on today, Gail. I think we had a great chat. I'd love to do it again, just a nice introductory chat so people in my audience know who you are. Haven't seen all of your interviews with Paul, but you do talk to Paul somewhat regularly, and I will add those Amazon links, as I said before, which includes the author's page and the book page as well. If you want to purchase Gail's book, and
which is a great holiday gift idea for people.
Yeah, recipe book. There you go. Yeah, definitely. Any final thoughts you would like to share with people listening?
No, I think I said quite a bit, and I thank you so much for inviting me on your channel, and I look forward to chatting with you more.
Definitely. Yeah, let's do it again. Actually, before if we can, could we just get one take on the macro geopolitical state that we find ourselves in with this election?
Okay, give you my intuitive perspective.
Okay, yeah, whatever your take is, yeah, and what's going on with the election, and is it stolen? You know, Trump, Biden, the whole thing. What do you think?
I don't think we'll have Biden as our president.
I hope you're right.
So I will kind of leave it with that.
Oh, wow. I really hope you're right.
I'm for some really huge shifts and some big changes. And I do see a lot of chatter, and I've heard from multiple sources about the fiat system changing, which I'm sure you're aware of. And I don't believe it's going to be coming through the legislation. So because I had been watching legislation quite carefully for quite some time, and I'm pretty sure that there's more to come, and I would probably look into around the end of January. And I'm seeing a rough time, and then I'm seeing a lot of relief afterward. So we're just gonna be going through that, and then it's gonna get better. And so I reposted one of my videos on Rainbow Healing and Wellness from a few months ago when I had that download, and so I just thought I would reiterate that. Okay,
excellent.
Oh, and one more thing. Paul wants me to say that he's running for 2024. So Paul Cottrell for 2024. There you go, Paul. You're welcome.
Wow. That is fantastic. Yeah, Paul Cottrell, 2024. Yeah. I'm voting for him, more than likely. I don't see anything wrong with, I don't see I have anything to lose by voting for Paul Cottrell at this point. So, shoot, maybe I should have voted for him this year.
Well, who knows? We'll see what happens, maybe sooner rather than later. But definitely for 2024, he's going to run. So I'll be there if he wants my help.
Fantastic. Awesome. Thank you so much, Gail. And let's chat again soon.
Okay. Thank you also.
Fantastic. Thanks, everybody, for joining. I will, again, update the description box. Her website is already there, as well as her other links. And thanks for listening. Stay frosty, folks, and we will see you all next time.